Imagine standing at the edge of time, peering into a mirror that reflects not just your face, but every moment you've ever lived, over and over again. This is the essence of Friedrich Nietzsche's eternal recurrence, a thought experiment so haunting it could either crush you or set you free. He asks, what if you had to live this life exactly as it is, infinitely? Every joy, every sorrow, every mundane Tuesday afternoon, repeated without end. It's not just a philosophical riddle, it's a psychological gauntlet. Your mind recoils, doesn't it? The weight of it presses down, forcing you to confront how you've spent your days. Are they worth reliving? Nietzsche wasn't trying to torture us. He was daring us to find meaning in the chaos of existence. The psyche, that swirling mess of instincts, memories, and dreams, becomes the battlefield. Could you say yes to it all? Could you embrace the repetition without despair? This isn't about time as a line, but as a circle, a loop that demands you reckon with yourself. Now let's shift the lens. Picture Carl Jung sitting in his study, scribbling notes about a patient who dreamt of a scarab beetle moments before one tapped on his window. That's synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that defy logic yet feel profoundly purposeful. Unlike Nietzsche's eternal return, which traps us in repetition, Jung's idea suggests that time isn't just a tyrant, it's a conspirator. The psyche, he argued, isn't isolated. It's entangled with the universe in ways we can't fully grasp. When that beetle showed up, it wasn't random. It was a bridge between the inner world of the dreamer and the outer world of reality. Jung saw these moments as whispers from the unconscious, nudging us toward wholeness. The scarab wasn't just an insect. It was a symbol, a key to unlock something buried deep. So while Nietzsche forces us to face the eternal weight of our choices, Jung offers a glimmer of connection, a hint that time might be more than a merciless cycle. Together, they create a psychological dance, repetition versus revelation. Let's linger on that dance for a moment. Eternal recurrence hits like a hammer, unrelenting, stark, almost brutal in its simplicity. You're forced to ask, have I lived authentically? Have I chased what matters? Or have I wasted my breath on shadows? It's a question that burrows into the psyche, stirring up guilt, pride, regret, maybe even defiance. Nietzsche didn't sugarcoat it. He wanted you to feel the terror of it, the vertigo of staring into an abyss that stares back with your own eyes. But here's the twist. It's not about changing the past. It's about owning it. The psyche doesn't get a rewrite. It gets a reckoning. Every tear you've shed, every laugh you've let loose, they're etched into this infinite loop. And if you can't bear that thought, Nietzsche says, maybe you're not living hard enough. It's a call to arms for the soul, a demand to make every second worthy of eternity. Jung, though, he's gentler, isn't he? Or maybe not gentle, just slyer. Synchronicity doesn't bludgeon you with repetition. It seduces you with mystery. That scarab beetle isn't a coincidence. It's a wink from the cosmos. Jung believed the psyche isn't just a prisoner of time, it's a co-creator. When something uncanny happens, like thinking of a friend right before they call, it's as if the universe and your mind are in cahoots. This isn't about fate in the rigid, predestined sense. It's about meaning emerging from the chaos, like a pattern you didn't know you were weaving. The unconscious, that shadowy realm Jung loved to explore, reaches out through these moments. It's not bound by clocks or calendars. It operates in a timeless space where past, present, and future blur. So while Nietzsche traps you in the eternal now, Jung suggests there's a deeper now, one that's secretly alive with purpose. Let's push this further. What happens when these two ideas collide in your head? Eternal recurrence says every moment repeats forever, and synchronicity says some moments are charged with hidden significance. It's like Nietzsche and Jung are arguing over your soul, one shouting, face the endless loop, and the other whispering, look for the signs. The psyche becomes this wild arena where time bends and meaning wrestles. Imagine reliving a day, not just any day, but one where something bizarrely synchronous happened. Maybe you found a book that answered a question you'd been carrying for years, right when you needed it most. Nietzsche would say, you'll find that book again and again, eternally. Jung would counter, that wasn't chance, It was your unconscious pulling strings. Together, they force you to ask, is life a prison of repetition or a playground of hidden connections? Think about your own life for a second. Haven't you had moments that felt too perfect to be random? A song on the radio that echoed your mood? A stranger's words that hit like a lightning bolt? Jung would call that synchronicity, evidence that the psyche isn't alone, that it's tied to something bigger. But Nietzsche would grab you by the shoulders and say, fine, it happened, but can you affirm it forever? Can you love that moment enough to live it endlessly? It's a brutal test of character. The psyche doesn't just process these ideas, it's shaped by them. One pushes you to endure, the other urges you to interpret. And maybe they're not opposites. Maybe eternal recurrence is the canvas, and synchronicity is the paint. Together, they create a picture of a mind grappling with its place in the infinite. Let's dive deeper into the unconscious, that murky swamp Jung adored. He saw it as a treasure chest of archetypes, ancient patterns that bubble up in dreams, myths, and those eerie coincidences. Synchronicity for him was the unconscious talking, not just to you, but through you. It's as if time itself cracks open to reveal something eternal. Not in Nietzsche's repetitive sense, but in a mythic, timeless one. Picture this. You're walking down a street, lost in thought, and you stumble across an old coin just as you're pondering your worth. Random? Maybe. But Jung would say it's the universe mirroring your psyche, reflecting your inner questions in the outer world. It's not about cause and effect, it's about resonance. The coin and your thoughts vibrate together, and suddenly time feels less like a straight line and more like a web. Nietzsche, though, doesn't care about your coin. He's too busy daring you to carry the weight of your entire existence. Eternal recurrence isn't warm or fuzzy. It's raw. It strips away excuses. You can't say, oh, I'll do better next time, because there is no next time. Just this time. Forever. The psyche buckles under that pressure, doesn't it? It's forced to confront every half-lived day, every moment you checked out instead of showing up. But here's the kicker. Nietzsche thought this could liberate you. If you can stare into that endless loop and say, yes, I'd do it all again, you've conquered something primal. It's not about joy, it's about strength. The psyche transforms from a victim of time into its master, embracing the eternal return not as a curse, but as a triumph. Now let's weave these threads tighter. Synchronicity suggests the psyche is plugged into a cosmic network where meaning pops up like sparks. Eternal recurrence insists you live with those sparks forever. Imagine a life where every synchronous moment, every how did that happen, replays infinitely. It's not just a cool story you tell at parties. It's a cornerstone of your eternal identity. Jung might say those moments are glimpses of the self, that elusive wholeness he chased. Nietzsche would say they're yours to affirm or reject. The psyche, caught between them, becomes a paradox, a seeker of signs and a bearer of burdens. Do you lean into the mystery, or do you grit your teeth and embrace the grind? Maybe it's both. Maybe that's the point. Let's get personal. Think of a time you felt the world tilt toward you, a coincidence so striking it left you speechless. For me, it was finding a letter from my grandfather, lost for years on the day I needed his wisdom most. Jung would smile and nod, synchronicity at work, the psyche and the universe in sync. But Nietzsche would loom over me, asking, can you live that moment again, every tear and tremble, forever? It's a gut punch. The psyche doesn't just remember, it decides. It chooses how to carry that letter, that day, that feeling. And maybe that's where these two giants meet, in the act of choosing. Synchronicity hands you a gift. Eternal recurrence asks if you'd take it endlessly. Together they demand a reckoning with meaning itself. Time starts to feel slippery now, doesn't it? Jung's synchronicity bends it, makes it nonlinear, almost playful. Nietzsche's recurrence locks it into a relentless rhythm. The psyche sits at the crossroads, juggling both. One moment, you're marveling at how the pieces of your life align. The next, you're wondering if you could stomach their eternal replay. It's a psychological tug-of-war, meaning versus endurance, connection versus solitude. And yet, they're not enemies. Jung's web of significance could be what makes Nietzsche's loop bearable. If every repeated moment holds a spark of the uncanny, Maybe you'd say yes to it all. The psyche doesn't just survive this, it thrives, finding depth in the infinite and purpose in the strange. Let's stretch this into the everyday. You wake up, pour your coffee, scroll your phone. Mundane, right? But what if that routine repeats forever? Nietzsche's shadow looms large. Can you love it enough to live it eternally? Then Jung chimes in. What if the way your spoon clinks the mug syncs with a thought you can't shake? Suddenly, the ordinary hums with meaning. The psyche toggles between these poles, boredom and wonder, repetition and revelation. It's not about escaping time, it's about inhabiting it. Nietzsche demands you own your life. Jung suggests it's bigger than you. Together, they reshape how you see the clock ticking, turning seconds into something sacred or unbearable. Or both. Picture a dream now. You're walking a path you've walked before, but this time a bird lands and stares at you, and you swear it knows something. Jung would say it's a symbol, a synchronous nudge from the unconscious. Nietzsche would say it's yours to relive, bird and all. The psyche doesn't split the difference. It holds both. That bird becomes a companion in your eternal story, a marker of meaning in the loop. Dreams, after all, are where time dissolves, where past and future tangle, where the unconscious plays free role. Maybe that's where these ideas fuse best, in the dreamscape, where recurrence meets synchronicity without a fight. Let's zoom out. The psyche isn't static. It's a river, flowing through time, carving its banks with every choice, every coincidence. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence is the current, pulling you back to the same waters. Jung's synchronicity is the ripples, hinting at unseen depths. Together they ask, what makes a life worth living? Is it the patterns that emerge, the moments that feel faded, or is it the courage to face the same river again and again? The psyche doesn't answer, it wrestles. It's a restless, beautiful mess, caught between the eternal and the ephemeral, searching for a home in both. Now let's ground this in the body. Feel your breath, steady, repetitive, a quiet echo of Nietzsche's loop. But then, a car horn blares outside, perfectly timed with a memory it jolts loose. Jung smirks. Synchronicity strikes again. The psyche lives in these intersections. In the flesh, in the fleeting. It's not abstract, it's visceral. Every heartbeat repeats. Every odd alignment sings. You're not just a thinker, you're a feeler, a liver of this paradox. Nietzsche's challenge and Jung's mystery aren't theories. They're pulses, pumping through you, asking what you'll do with this moment, this now, this forever. Let's play with scale. Imagine the universe itself caught in eternal recurrence. Stars dying and reborn. Galaxies spinning the same dance. Then picture synchronicity threading through it. Planets aligning just as a thought dawns. The psyche mirrors this cosmic push-pull. It's both vast and intimate, replaying its tiny dramas while reaching for something grander. Nietzsche would say the universe doesn't care. It's your job to care. Jung would say it's all connected and you're part of the thread. The psyche, stretched between them, becomes a bridge between the infinite and the instant, the mundane and the mythic. What if we've got it backward? Maybe eternal recurrence isn't a trap but a rhythm, and synchronicity isn't a fluke but a heartbeat. The psyche might not be torn. It might be harmonizing. Nietzsche's yes to life and Jung's web of meaning could be two sides of the same coin. A call to live fully, awake to both the grind and the grace. Every repeated day holds a chance for a synchronous spark, and every spark fuels the strength to affirm the day. The psyche doesn't choose. It dances, twirling through time, finding its footing in the eternal now. Let's end where we began, at the edge of time, mirror in hand. Nietzsche's reflection stares back, unblinking. Will you live this again? Jung's voice whispers. Look closer. There's more here than you see. The psyche doesn't flinch. It's been forged in this crucible, shaped by recurrence, lit by synchronicity. It's not about solving the riddle, it's about loving it. Time loops, coincidences flare, and you're left standing, not as a prisoner or a puppet, but as a participant. The eternal meets the synchronous, and the psyche says, yes, I'm here. Yes, I'll stay.